Hey everyone, my name is Trey, Cockrum, and in today's video I'm talking about how to break the $100,000 a month ceiling on your online consulting business. Now, I'm going to reference a conversation that I had with one of my students who we're working with actively. His name's Connor, and he's capped at about $100,000 a month. And it sounds like a good place to be for a lot of people. Now, this is not for the beginners. Obviously this video is for people who are actually trying to, really grow and create like generational wealth, and build their business to a very, very high level. Okay, and that's not everybody. Not everybody's willing to make the sacrifices necessary and really do the work there, but he is, and he's in our mastermind. So I'm going to start with this conversation. And just so you know, our business, I don't have to make this content. Like my business will do anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 a month, whether I make YouTube videos or not. So my goal with this content is to really just add a ton of value to people, give them a ton of clarity, and really just serve people. And whether you buy anything from me in the future or not is completely irrelevant. And my only sole goal is to just add a heap of value and make it pointless to watch any other business channels. Okay. That's really my goal, is just to be your favorite go-to YouTube channel, whether you buy anything from me or not. All right, and so I want to give you a peek inside of what it looks like. So I'll read a conversation to you that I had this morning. I asked him how he's doing. Basically, I just got back from a road trip with my wife, so I was gone for a week, and it was a beautiful time. And I really encourage CEOs of companies and if you're an entrepreneur, take a week off every quarter. Take a week off. It's just a great way to do life, and I read some books, and we went and camped in Georgia. And I send Connor a message to say, hey man, I'm back. Is there anything I can do for you? Like anything I help you think through, because he's one of our clients. And I just sent a voice note to everybody saying, hey, anything I can help you with? He said, team only closed one deal the entire time I was gone. Usually they close 5 to 7 a week. Now this is somebody who has a $5,000 consulting offer. Or I think it's either a $5,000 or $7,000. His niche, he helps videographers land more clients. Okay. So I'm going to talk about how I'm going about solving this problem with him and everything. So I said, got it, dude. Let's chat about this. Here's my one-to-one link, pop in a time. But I said, honestly, I'd rather not wait. Let's just talk about it on Slack. He said, did 70,000 again. I'm stuck at 70 to 80,000. I really just can't seem to break through it. And I said, you're not stuck. We just haven't found that workaround. He said, I'm skipping some details. But basically I discovered that he is still involved in the sales process of his own company. Now, I want you to understand there's really 3 things necessary to break beyond the $100,000 a month ceiling or barrier in your consulting company. Okay, so the very, very first is vision, mission, values. Okay, VMV. And so what is VMV and why is it so important? Well, I'm going to get back to this in a second, but basically just know that a company is like a cybernetic organism. Your brain is a cybernetic organism. If you've ever read the book Psycho-Cybernetics, you're familiar with what I'm talking about. You can feed it an end goal, and it will automatically achieve the end goal. You don't even have to think about it. You give it an end goal, and you give it time and space to just adjust, and it's going to get there. And so a company is just a collection of brains, and brains are cybernetic mechanisms. And because they're a cybernetic mechanism, if you give them an end, a clearly defined end, and just let go, it's going to achieve it. Okay, so Connor, in this specific instance, is overly, this is the next thing. Let go / control syndrome. Control syndrome, okay? So he hasn't learned how to let go yet. He hasn't learned how to give his team the wheel, and he also has control syndrome, which leads to enabling his team to continue to perform with his presence, only relying on his presence. So he can't actually build a real company because his team needs him still. So to give context, I found out that Connor was involved in the sales process in the way of his team would have a consult with somebody, and then his team would message Connor and say, hey Connor, can you send them a voice note, or could you do a follow-up call with this guy? And because Connor wasn't willing to go through that short-term dip where his team can learn lessons and not need him, he's enabled his team to rely on him. Okay, and this is a really tricky thing for a lot of people to get through, because, and this actually capped me for the longest time at $100,000 to $170,000 a month. And this is really difficult to break through. I see a lot of people get stuck here, and this is because you honestly haven't learned how to not grow for a sec and give your team the space to grow into their roles. This is a really difficult transition for a lot of people because if you're watching this right now and you're wanting to get like say $500,000 a month, you right now might be a $100,000 a month business owner, and you've gotten there just by like grit and focus and high standards, personal high standards, and you've going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, freaking blue light blocker glasses and like cold showers and intensity, and you haven't unlearned that yet. And it's not that you don't do those things anymore. It's more that you make yourself rich and you build that financial leverage up for yourself, and then you have to understand that you have actually more leverage in your financial success and being able to build a pathway for other people to succeed underneath you than you do in your own effort. So the next thing, and I talk about this a little bit with some of our clients, is you have to unlearn. You have to unlearn that time or effort equals money. It just doesn't anymore. Your effort does not equal money. You have to let go of this. Effort and time do not equal money. Energy does not equal money. Once you've gotten to $100,000 a month, what you used to get paid on like massive action and tons of activity, and it's a very strange psychological shift from that place into you're really getting paid to make high quality decisions. Okay, there's a book called A CEO Only Does Three Things, and it's written by a guy named Trey something, and I forget his last name. Did I read the book because it was written by a guy named Trey and my name's Trey? Maybe, I don't know. But he talks about there's really only three things that a CEO needs to do in his company. And this is people, so who's hired and where are they placed? Do you have the right people on the ship? Okay. Numbers, so do you have enough money in the bank, and are you actually profitable, and do you have clear eyes on your marketing numbers and your client satisfaction numbers, and really just being very data driven, which is really, really easy to do once you realize just how simple it is and how much freedom there is there. And then the final component is culture. So people, numbers, and culture are the only things that a CEO does. And so a CEO does not elbow grease and like sometimes you have to step in and lead by example, sure. But for the most part, you're actually unlearning that time and energy equals money. What equals money now is doing people, numbers, and culture well. So do you have the right people on the ship? And how do you define that? That's a good question. Maybe that's for another video. Do you know your numbers? The simple baseline numbers you need to know are your profit margins, obviously. You need to know your profit margins. You need to know how much you need to spend on ads to acquire a client, or how much marketing you do to acquire a client. You need to know, your client satisfaction. And a great way to measure that is just your referral percentage. So how many of your clients actually end up sending another client? It's the easiest way to measure, client satisfaction. And you just need to know your numbers. And then culture, you need to have a clear mission, vision, and value. So if you go to treycockrum.com/jobs, for example, and this is where we attract all of our talent for our companies and for my companies. On that page, I describe, why we do what we do and what we're really here for. So your business needs to exist for a higher level reason than just to make you money. It needs to make you money. It needs to make your team a lot of money, and it needs to exist to impact people and do something meaningful. Because what you learn as an entrepreneur is that not everybody's as obsessed about making tens of millions of dollars as you are, right? Not everybody's as obsessed about making $1 million a year as you are. Some people just want to have meaningful work, and as long as they're making $60,000 to $100,000 a year, they're good. And when you really realize that not everybody thinks like you, and some people just want a really meaningful job, then it's like, whoa, the whole world opens up to you, okay? So you need to have clearly defined mission, vision, and value. So mission is what you're here to do. Your vision is how you're going to do it, right? And your values are like how you interact with one another on the way there. And this used to just strike me as like fodder, right? This didn't used to really hit me. I used to think that this was just like something that people talk about, but this is actually important. So let me just play for you my message to Connor, okay? And you'll hear me kind of talk about a lot of these syndromes. I mean, this is just like, me working with a client, and I'll play this for you right now. I mean, dude, you really just got to think about it like raising a kid, right? Like, it really is that way. Like, if you tell a kid, hey, don't do that, but then you keep enabling the behavior, they'll just keep doing it. Like, words don't speak as loud as actions, right? If you say, hey, I need to be uninvolved in the closing process, but then you go and you keep sending voice notes, or you keep hopping on follow-ups or whatever, right? They'll never learn. And if he keeps blaming leads, that's okay. And I want you to understand, man, when he misses a sale, you're not losing money. You have to really have this perspective. Like, if the sales guy misses a sale, you haven't lost any money, dude. Because you've got an advertising process where you can fill the calendar whenever you want. And if you have to, you can step back in and make closes, but like that's such a short-term view, right? So in Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about in order to get an outcome from somebody, you need to clearly define the outcome and then give them the space to figure it out themselves. Humans are cybernetic organisms that can like optimize for an end. So if you just say, hey man, look, my goal for you is that you close at least 2 a day. That's the goal. Now let's work backwards from there. What do you need from me? What do we need from the marketing, et cetera, to make that happen? And you give them everything that you can, and you step back and you let them do that. And you have a clearly painted expectation. Like I told my head of sales, look, dude, if you don't get us to $500,000 a month, and I'm gonna, bring in another sales manager because I know people that can do that with our opportunity right now. And so I'm just letting them figure it out. Like I'm literally just stepping back and letting them figure it out. And that's the beauty of having good people, right? Is you feed them an end and you let them figure it out. And I think there's a certain mentality here that you've had of like control, and I think you're having a hard time giving up that control, and it becomes like enabling behavior for your team. I could be wrong. I don't want to like accuse you of that, but like that's been my experience. People are stuck at your stage, and I was stuck there for a long time too. It's like I would understand this, micromanagement and anxiety if they had other financial opportunities or other financial vehicles that they could be doing, right? So if your closer, if their only income is commission from you, then let their stress guide them. You don't have to be stressed for them. If their only moneymaker is working for you, then they're going to figure it out. Or they're going to go broke, or they're going to find another job. Right? And so you just have to trust that. You have to trust, if nothing else, just that part of a human that is capable of optimizing for an end. Like psycho-cybernetics talks about that, right? Like you feed an end to somebody and they're like a missile and they'll just achieve it. And they'll go a little left and they'll course correct. Go a little right, they'll course correct. They'll course correct up and down, when they recognize that they're off the goal. And so I think, dude, it's just a matter of like, it's not, hey man, I need you to make more sales. It's like, dude, like I want you to make like 20, 30 grand a month commission. Like that's really what you're sitting on here. And I hear that you're blaming the leads. But, what would 20, 30 grand a month do for you? Why is that something you really want? And it's kind of like working with a client, right? Like sometimes you have to resell them on the process. Sometimes you have to do that with salespeople. Now this is why I have a head of sales, because I've got, now we've got 4 closers, and there's just no way I could have this conversation with as many people as I'm having. But it's really important right now for you to learn these lessons, dude, so that you can have these conversations with your head of sales when you have one, because I know that you're going to have one, and you're going to do like 300, 400,000 a month. It's like no brainer. It's obviously going to happen. So you need to learn this stuff yourself. But yeah, dude, like the leads aren't the problem. Because you're telling me that if you stepped in, you could close the leads, right? And if that's the case, then they're closable leads. Like if they can close by anybody, then they're closable leads. And I've had to step in and demonstrate that sometimes, which is fine. It's just leadership by example. And then, you just have to be like, look, man, like you can make 15, 20,000 a month. I hear that you're saying it's the leads and stuff, but like I can close these leads. And I'll step in and record the closes, send them to the team, like, look, like I can close them, they're closable. So what's up, right? And then if they use the excuse like, oh, but you're Connor. It's like, look, man, me being Connor gives me a slight advantage, sure, but there's other ways to make up for that advantage. You know what I mean? There's other ways to make up for it. So, I don't know, man, that's just some thoughts. Let me know what you think about all this. This is an interesting issue, and I want to solve it for you. And listen, I know I'm sending you a lot on this, but you kind of have to understand that, like, it's actually not your job to ensure that they're closing. This is kind of a huge breakthrough for me. Like, if their income is tied to this, then it's just their standards that are the thing. So their standards define their performance. So what they're willing to settle for defines their performance. And this is where the deepest coaching you can do with a salesperson isn't on their sales. It's really on like why they're here, what they want. And this isn't just for sales, this is for every role in your company. You know what I mean? Like the real coaching isn't in their job. It's in like, okay, why are you here? What are you aiming for? Like, look, man, you've kind of dropped the ball, and I'm not worried about your performance here. I'm worried about you as a person. Are you good? And, like, is this something you still want? And if you really want this, then we can discuss some solutions, but it feels to me like you're just not sure that you want it. And so you kind of have to talk to the person and not the problem, if that makes sense. And when you can do that, you can have the conversation. Now, I want to get a one-on-one with you, and I want to dive really deep on this, because I really think that if you can crack this little piece of your business of, like, how to create a, almost, for lack of better terms, a corporate environment where somebody isn't defined by Connor's coaching level, but defined by their own personal standards. Once you can create that in your company, then it's coaching people. It's like what you have been doing this whole time, like in your program, you help, video people hire clients, right? And like a lot of that has to do with their standards and their self-image and yada yada. It's the same stuff, dude, but just applied inside of your own company. So yeah, man, we'll figure it out, and you'll figure it out, and it's really not that big of a problem, I promise you. I know it probably feels like a big problem, but it's really not. It's like a level 2 out of 10. Like, it's not a big issue at all. So we'll figure it out, and I want to get on one-on-one and chat about this with you, because, yeah, dude, I want to see you break 100, 200, 300,000 a month this year, and we're going to do that. The core idea that I think my message to him had was a couple things. So, obviously, vision, mission, values. You need to have a reason why they work here, and Connor has established this. But he's not really holding his team accountable to these when it comes down to it. So, the vision, mission, values, maybe one of the values needs to become self-sufficiency. Maybe one of the values needs to become like we're actually bought in a mission and vision, and we're self-sufficient in getting there. And, maybe one of the values needs to become we grow every month. Like, we don't backslide. We just refuse to backslide in a given quarter, right? And if we backslide, what did we do wrong, right? And then you can enforce these, because on your job application page, they're very clear, and then you can enforce them. And you can't really enforce an unspoken expectation. This is where a lot of people get it wrong with team culture, is like, you can't assume that your team knows that there's a problem. You have to actually, you have to preemptively explain every expectation you have for somebody, so that you then have the, for lack of a better term, the leverage to have a hard conversation with somebody later. Okay. And so I'll give an example in my company. So in my company, when we're bringing on a closer, so say if you were to apply to work for us as a closer, we've got an incredibly high standard for closers, like incredibly high. Like if you're not closing at least 35% consistently, then, we're gonna help you find another opportunity or something, but it's just not here. You're just not gonna work here, okay? And the reason why isn't because like we don't want to create opportunity for people. It's because we have really talented people on the team, and we want to protect their energy. And so you have to have high standards, have a very clearly communicated, and we want every single closer in our company to produce at least $100,000 cash. At least $100,000 cash every single month, at least, minimum, okay? And so obviously it's on us to create the amount of opportunity for them to achieve that, but it's really easy to achieve once you have just a basic advertising process in place. So it's really not that complex. And I know that maybe sounds pretty high level to some people, but really it's not that complex. Like a closer needs 4 to 5 closable calls every single day. It's very simple. Okay, so vision, mission, values is communicated. He's not enforcing them. He hasn't defined that end, and he hasn't given his team the space to achieve that end. So he took this week off. They only closed one. If I were in his shoes, I would say, hey, dude, like, I'm going to give you another week. I'm going to take another week off, and if you can't figure it out, I'm going to just bring out somebody else. Because you have to understand, like, you have to think from a place of abundance and not scarcity. What would the abundant person do? Well, an abundant person who's not in scarcity, not thinking in scarcity, understands that they can make sales whenever they want, make as much money as they want whenever they want. Like, money is the lowest form of value. It's the easiest thing to create. It's, you can create money whenever you want, okay? Time is what's valuable. Energy is what's valuable. Relationships are what's valuable. Money is not valuable, okay? Money, you can make as much money as you want whenever you want. So an abundant person is not afraid of going another week, okay, and saying, look, you're going to figure this out. So now, obviously, I don't know the inner workings of his team culture and everything like that, and like there is a right time to fire for sure. Like if this person has just underperformed over and over again, and you get to the root of it and it's a personal issue that they just can't work through, you need to get rid of them and bring on somebody who doesn't have that personal baggage. Sometimes team members will have personal baggage that you just can't work through. Like, for example, they have just a really complex family life. Like, they've got, 5 kids or something. It's just, it's going to be a really tough employee unless they have a great home environment, And so there's certain things here that you just, you can't really sustain. But if you're not finding any actual blockers, then you need to just give them an end and let them achieve it. Now, This is a singular instance of a company owner and closer relationship. How does this relate to other areas of your business? Because your business isn't just sales, right? It's not just sales. Like, your business is a lot more than just sales. Your business has really 3 departments. It has a marketing department, a sales department, and a delivery department. Marketing's job is to fill the sales team's calendars. Sales job is to convert the closes. Delivery department is to ensure that people have an incredible experience within your programs and products. And so really, you need to have clearly defined ends for each of these departments. Sales, clearly defined. Delivery, clearly defined. Marketing, clearly defined. Okay? And then you need to have clear ends that you've communicated, a mission, a vision, and a value system that people can get behind or are excited about. You need to let go and drop your control syndrome and trust your people. And this is one of the hardest transitions to make, because for the longest time, your income has been up to you. And for the longest time, you created this relationship with your work where you knew that if you stepped into a certain mindset and sort of acted a certain way, within about a week or two, you'd get the repercussions of that mentality and whatever. Like, I remember this season for myself, when I had my first $100,000 profit months, it was like, I'd wake up and I'd be like, I could just internally decide that I'm going to have a good month, right? And I would just go do it because I knew all the moving pieces. I aligned my intention. I dropped my desire, aligned my intention, and I just trusted the process, and I just did the work. Like, it's just very math driven, right? Like, I know that if I book at least 5 meetings a day, I'm going to close 2. And if I close 1 to 2 every single day, I'm going to do $100,000 a month. Very simple, right? But then eventually, once you have another person, you can't control other people's intentions. The closest you can get is clearly defined mission, vision, and values, and clearly defined numbers, defined end goals. So with my head of delivery, it's like, we want referrals. That's like, that is an end that we can adjust for, right? That we can really optimize for. So how many referrals do we get? Okay. So hopefully that this makes sense. Now, this is how you break your 100,000 a month. Is really, you need to put the right people on the ship and let go. And it sounds kind of wild, but it's just true. And a lot of people, they don't really understand the power of this concept. I reference my wife. For fun, really works at this coffee shop, and she just has made a ton of friends there, and it's a great culture and it's a great environment. And I love hearing like how they run their team. And coffee shop's not a very profitable model. So if you mix like the value system and the culture system that they have over there with like a company like ours, like a consulting company, I really think I've learned a lot by just hearing what my wife says about how they run the coffee shop. And, one of the key things is like, they have a really strict application process. So you can't, if you apply, you can't just work there. Like, they have an abundance mindset when it comes to talent. Like, they know that they're a great coffee shop. They know a lot of people want to work there. They're not going to just take anybody. It's going to be like, you got to be a certain quality. You have to have a certain level of people skill. You got to have to, enjoy people enough, enjoy coffee enough, and really be about what we're about and have a very high standard there. So it starts with that high standard of who you bring in. The second is clearly defined ends, right? So clearly defined ends of like what it looks like to interact with the customer, what their mission, what their values are, and every month they actually have a team huddle and they look at the values, like did we live by these values, and they have like a little ceremony where they reward on the values and like, hey, you know what, my wife's name is Lily, like Lily, you did this very, very well, and she just thrives in that environment, right? And people thrive in that environment. This is what's really neat is as a leader, you can actually begin to craft an environment where the right people can thrive. Because you've got two things. You've got an extremely viable financial model, which is online consulting, which is just a stupidly profitable business. If you mix it with a decent understanding of human, what would you call this? I guess leadership, really. Leadership and human operations, which is like mission, vision, values, clearly defined end, a cybernetic alignment to an end goal, letting go of your control syndrome. This is a big one. I've seen a lot of people have their first like $1 million month and then go back to like 400,000 a month the next month because they haven't dropped their control syndrome. They haven't dropped control. They flex their number. They look at what we've built and everything, but it doesn't sustain because they don't really have the right people on the ship. They're really just pushing their people. They're not pulling good things out of your people. In order to pull good things out of people, you have to put a 10 on their head and see them as a wonderful addition to the team. Now, once they've gone through your application process, once they actually have approved to work there and everything, okay, then you can put sort of a high expectation on them. And, one of the most powerful things that you can do in your company is just send voice notes to your team members like, look, dude, I want you to know I really believe in you. You're here for a reason. right? This is rare air. And if you give them that sense of rare air, I think one of the people that did this really well in my life who I learned this from was I went through a youth group here in Indianapolis. And the leader of the youth group was like, he would always say over and over, and this, I grew up Christian, I still am a Christian, I'm a devout Christian, right? And, really good churches, really good youth programs, I've found that they kind of have this like, look, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. Kind of a mindset, right? Like, this is what we stand for, and if you're not about that, that's okay. You're not going to hurt our feelings. Leave. Go find a place that is more in alignment with what you're in alignment with. But this is what we're in alignment with. And then you almost get this sense of community and a sense of like, this is like really where I need to be. And I got this voice message from one of our closers saying like, dude, I don't think you understand just the amount of culture that you've built here, and that to me is really important. Okay. So, and it's not just important, it's necessary. It's a part of the process of growing from a 1 to 3 man show at $100,000 a month with like 70% profits to $500,000 to $1 million a month, $500,000 to $1 million a month at like 50 to 60% profits. Okay. And so, this is the culture component. Okay. This is the culture component. If I were smarter, I would have prefaced this video and talked about like the other component, which is the marketing and sales component. It's very simple. You really just need to have a system where your inputs equal your outputs. So organic marketing is awesome. Like YouTube is awesome, Instagram organic's awesome, but you really need to know like if I put $10,000 into this, I'm gonna get $50,000 to $70,000 back. Once you have that, you can start doing this stuff. Until you have that, you really can't do this stuff. So a lot of people notice I've gone really quiet on YouTube, and like the past like 6 to 9 months, like I've just been getting married and doing this. Like that's what I've been doing. And I haven't really been doing the organic stuff because it just like, look, like it's fun. But now I realize that the organic stuff, it's really just a place for me to just process what I'm learning almost and just like, and almost, it's just documentative. It's not really something that I do to make sales. It's just like, I do it to add value, and whether somebody buys something from me or not, it's fine. But this is it, right? So the other component is a input to output marketing system. So like it needs to be basically advertising of some sort. It needs to be a funnel process where you know that if you put a certain amount in advertising, you get a certain amount back out. This is the only way I've seen people get to and sustain high levels of revenue with a controllable company culture. The only other alternative is to spend 3 to 5 years building a brand. Now this is what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to build my brand massively, and we're going to get to like $700,000 to $1 million a month. I'm just going to work on my brand. Like that's the goal, because like I think that we've got a really good message. I think that I'm somebody that, it could really help a lot of people and add a lot of value to a lot of people, and not just add value, but like really stand for something for people and bring them into a better life. I see myself, I was almost like a Tony Robbins businessy figure, right? Like almost just like pulling good things out of people, helping them see what they can become. Because I was 16, 17 years old, I had $300 in the bank, homeschooled, and dropped out of that. So I didn't even get my GED and didn't get a degree of any kind. Never went to college. Been in a public school building 5 times. And here I am, scaling my company to, $10 million a year, right? And so, like, I think that there's a lot of lessons that I've learned that I can apply to a lot of other people's lives, and I just want to give that. And so that's what I'm going to build my brand off of, is just, like, timeless business principles and wisdom. Because I've read, like, hundreds of books, spent, like, $300,000, $400,000 on, like, mentors and programs and stuff, and I've combined it all together, and I just want to help people, okay? But anyway, you need an inputs to outputs marketing process, and you need this culture and company system. Until you have those two things, you're going to stay stuck at $100,000 a month, and you're going to continue to be chained to your business. Okay? There's other components here, like the delivery component. You need to be actually uninvolved from delivery entirely. When you make a $5,000 to $7,000 sale, you should be completely uninvolved in the delivery of that program or process. This is why the Consulting Blueprint program, we build CB 2.0, and it's just like this wildly detailed online course. Like it's like literally 40 hours of content. It's like we don't skip a single beat on anything. We can take a total beginner who doesn't even know their niche, doesn't know what they would sell, has no background or experience, no clue about anything, never sold anything, probably just worked a job. Take that person from that place to making $10,000 to $20,000 a month as a coach. Like, that's a complex problem, and if you don't have a delivery process that can meet that, then you're not going to be able to scale. And so you need to look at your company's solution. What's the recording just cut. You need to look at the end that your products and programs are trying to achieve, and you have to ask, do we have a scalable way of creating that end? Until you have a scalable way of creating that end, you can't scale. So this is the delivery end of things. Marketing is obvious. Turn $1 into 5 or 6 or 7. Sales is also obvious. Fill their calendar. okay? And then have the sort of a culture discussion that I'm talking about here in this video, right? With like clear end, high mission, vision, values, a great application process, great interview process, everything like that, okay? But the other component is delivery, which is like, do you have a scalable means of taking somebody from that point A to that point B? Whatever that transition looks like, whether it's a weight loss program, or it's a personal development program, or it's a fitness program, or it's a business program, or it's a make money online program, or it's a whatever it is. Do you have that process? And is it the same for everybody? Like the same, like you can send them down a conveyor belt. If you don't have that, then you can't sustain your scale. When you do scale your company, and when you do 500,000 a month, $1 million a month, $2 million a month, what's going to happen is you're going to create a lot of debt in the form of unmet client expectations. And this is going to hurt your business in the long run. I've seen this over and over again. So this is why, even before getting to $1 million, $2 million a month, I've seen a lot of my buddies get there. I've seen a lot of people that I'm kind of hanging out with casually, and I've seen them get there. But I've seen that one of the problems that's happening in a lot of their businesses is just like they're creating this delivery debt. And you find that a lot of people end up shifting their niche around. I want to help people build consulting coaching businesses and from scratch, get to 10, 20,000 a month, and help them get to like $1 million to $5 million a year. And that's all I want to do. Like, I don't want to get distracted with like appointment setting. I don't want to get distracted with like closing. I don't want to get distracted. This is all I want to do because I actually freaking love this stuff. And like, I believe that as a man, you shouldn't really tie yourself to a financial vehicle that you're not like really, really excited about in the long term. As a principle. Now, you'll make a lot more money a lot quicker in the short term if you're doing something that is just profitable, and that's great. I think I've got my mom in me in this way, where she's like an artist, and like she couldn't stand her like insurance job. Like, she made good money, but she quit it. She couldn't stand it. And I'm the same way. Like, I don't want to do something that I'm not excited about. So I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent there, but this is how you get to beyond 100,000 a month. Hopefully this has been a valuable video. If you have any questions about any of these concepts, let me know. A couple great books that I recommend on just leadership development. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a really, really good book that's going to help you understand how to really develop people, how to develop yourself, and how to develop other people. Because, personal development is just one of the critical components of leadership. You should make sure that your organization, whatever it may be, when somebody comes in, they are ultimately better off because they were there. So everybody that's worked for me that has left has gone on to either build their own business to like $1 million a year, or has gone on to just get an insane job somewhere, like every single time. And it's just because we're so good at that development of people, okay? And so, you want to have a company that develops people. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about how to develop yourself and then how that development can rub off on other people. Okay, really, really good book. The other book that I really recommend is CEO Only Does 3 Things by that Trey guy. I forget his last name. Really, really good book. Those are 2 books. The last is I recommend John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Really good book. John Maxwell is like one of the classic leadership coaches, and he actually, it's funny, I read his stuff before I even had like a successful business to apply stuff to. You know what I mean? So I think it was just in the back of my head. Like, I read 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership because I led this Bible study out of my home, and I got like 15 to 20 guys to come every week, and my spiritual mentor at the time said, hey, read this book before you start your Bible study. I said, okay, I'll read it. Read the book, started the Bible study, and it was funny, like I didn't have a profitable business vehicle to apply the concepts to. Now I really, really, really do. And so it's really exciting where it's like, okay, I know this stuff, this makes sense to me, and now I can really build a cool thing. So you've got a really viable, profitable vehicle. If you're doing $50,000 to $100,000 a month, you have to develop leadership skills. You have to. And so those are some great recommended readings on that topic. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that freaking like button and hit the subscribe and notification bell and whatever you want to do. Share it with people, and because I just, I'm gonna have no asks. I don't want to have any asks on this channel. I want to be like, schedule a call below, like check out my free training. None of that, dude. I just want to like help people out, because like it's kind of wild how profitable this business is. And if my content can help make some independent millionaires, like, I'm good. I'm a happy man, and I would love to meet you one day, have dinner with you and your wife, or you and your husband, or you and your whatever, and just get to know you, okay? Because my goal is just add a ton of value to people and really serve them, and hopefully this stuff kind of hit a bit of a bell in your head and spark some stuff into action, okay? So let me know if it added value to you. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.